Hello, welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today, we are going to discuss the important issues appearing in the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 6th February 2020. The news to be discussed has been presented on the screen and time stamping has been provided in the description box below. So let's start our today's discussion. Now, our first news appears on page number 1. It says, Trust formed for Ram Temple construction. This was told by the Prime Minister of India in the Parliament that a trust to oversee the construction of a Ram temple in Ayodhya as ordered by the Supreme Court will be given to Shri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra. So this is the trust which has been constituted as per the judgment of Supreme Court with respect to construction of Ram temple. So accordingly, the government has transferred the entire land at Ayodhya for the construction of Ram temple, which is approx 67.703 acres of land. And this trust shall be a 15-member trust. And this trust shall be free to take all decisions regarding construction of Ram temple in Ayodhya. And as already highlighted, that this decision of the Prime Minister is as per the Supreme Court judgment on Ram temple construction. Now in this regard, the Supreme Court in its judgment stated that the onus is on the central government to constitute a trust within 3 months and hand over the disputed site to the trust. So accordingly, the central government has created this trust, namely the Shri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra, for the construction of Ram temple in Ayodhya. And further, the Supreme Court said that the government will also make necessary provisions under the Acquisition of Certain Areas at Ayodhya Act of 1993 for the management as well as construction of Ram temple. So accordingly, the central government has constituted this trust, namely the Shri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra. Now as you can see that the Acquisition of Certain Area at Ayodhya Act of 1993 provides for two important provisions, namely Section 6, which says power of central government to direct vesting of the area in another authority or body or trust, and Section 7, namely management of property by the government. So it was under these two provisions that the Supreme Court had ordered the central government to constitute a trust with respect to management as well as construction of Ram temple in India. And this trust shall be headed by former Attorney General and Supreme Court lawyer K. Prasaran. Now the next news appears on page number 10 in the editorial section. It says, Purifying water. The effort must be to ensure BIS standard water at consumers' end. Now this editorial talks about a recent notification whereby the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has issued a regulation with respect to use of membrane-based water purification system. And this notification has been released because earlier National Green Tribunal had banned reverse osmosis water filter in Delhi. After this ban, the Association of Water Filters Manufacturers challenged this particular order of the National Green Tribunal, and thereby this led to this particular notification by Ministry of Environment and Forest with respect to regulation on use of membrane-based water purification system. Now this editorial primarily deals with two aspects. First is with respect to the regulation on membrane-based water purification system, and second is with respect to the water quality, or rather the quality of drinking water as per the BIS standards. It's important to note that recently the government took samples of drinking water and on the basis of such samples ranked cities based on 28 different parameters. Another important point to be noted is that with respect to BIS norms on drinking water, it is mandatory for bottled water producers to follow the BIS norms with respect to drinking water, whereas it is only voluntary for the public agencies who supply drinking water to follow these BIS norms. So in this regard, let us understand these two different aspects as highlighted in this editorial. First is with respect to the regulation on use of water membrane-based water purification system, and the second is with respect to the quality of drinking water. As even the Composite Water Management Index of Niti Aayog has said that 70% of water supply in India is contaminated. So in this regard, let us go through the salient features of this regulation as well as learn certain basic facts with respect to BIS standard for drinking water. Now, as per certain research, it has been highlighted that home filters using RO mechanism waste nearly 80% of the water usage. Further, some research also shows that filtering process can cut levels of calcium as well as magnesium in the water, which is a very essential nutrient in the water. So all these research have also raised question with respect to filtration of water through RO as it wastes lot of water. So considering all these aspects, the government of India has issued the notification with respect to regulation on use of membrane based water purification system, that is on RO water purification system. Now in this aspect, we must know about total dissolved solids which is present in water. Now this total dissolved solids basically is total concentration of dissolved substances in water, and they are inorganic salts as well as organic matter. Organic salts include calcium, magnesium, potassium as well as sodium, and it also includes carbonates, nitrates, bicarbonates, chlorides, sulfates, etc. So research have shown that filtration through RO also removes some of these important total dissolved solids which are very essential for the human body. So in this regard, this notification has been issued by the government of India, and these rules provide for supply as well as installation of RO purification system for household needs and also for commercial purposes. However, this notification does not apply to seawater reverse osmosis system, and it pertains to point of use as well as to point of entry, and it also pertains to discarded elements. So this notification is basically for membrane based water purification system, here referred as NWPS. Now as you can see, this notification explains membrane based water purification system as a combination of purification system involving microfiltration process through a semi-permeable membrane. Whereas with respect to discarded element, it says that it means those elements which are discarded or removed from the filtration process. Now point of use means location of water purification system close to the use point and delivered directly to a single tap, multiple tap such as kitchen sink faucet or an auxiliary faucet. Whereas with respect to point of entry, it means location of water purification system where it treats most of the water entering the premises or on supply line of whole house system or residential housing society, commercial and institutional buildings, hospitals, etc. So these are some of the important terms highlighted in this notification. So effectively, this notification regulates point of use and point of entry with respect to filtration of water through RO and also with respect to discarded elements. Now with respect to its salient features, it says that installation as well as use of MWPS, that is membrane based water purification system, shall be prohibited at the point of use as well as at point of entry. And further, it also prohibits purification of water through RO, which is through a supplied piped water, if such supplied piped water meets the drinking water requirements of BIS standards, which is 10500 is to 2012. Now this BIS standard on drinking water provide for these different specifications which are important with respect to drinking of water. Further, installation of MWPS is allowed if there is an operational zero reject discharge facility available at the system. Further, installation of MWPS is also allowed if it follows guidelines for management of reject water which is provided by Central Pollution Control Board. Further, the notification says that installation of MWPS for commercial or industrial purpose shall only be allowed if it follows the Water Prevention and Control of Water Pollution Act of 1974. Now after a discussion on important aspect of the notification, let us move to the other aspect with respect to quality of piped drinking water. Now here it's important to know about Jal Jeevan Mission, as it aims to provide tap water to all households by the year 2024, And in the pursuit of this particular Jal Jeevan mission, Department of Consumer Affairs decided to undertake a study along with Bureau of Indian Standards on the quality of piped drinking water which is supplied in India. And accordingly, it ranked states as well as smart cities including districts based on the quality of water. It's interesting to see that majority of the samples from most cities fail to meet the requirements of BIS, and to test these waters 28 different parameters were taken. Now this is a report of drinking water samples taken by Consumer Affairs along with BIS. Now the editorial also highlights in this aspect that in Delhi 11 samples were taken for testing and all the 11 samples failed. Further, these samples failed on 19 different parameters out of 28 parameters, whereas none of the drinking water samples taken in Mumbai failed the test. Now, according to the BIS standard of drinking water specification of IS 10500, it says that drinking water is a water intended for human consumption for drinking as well as for cooking purposes and can be taken from any source. It includes water either treated or untreated which is supplied by any means for human consumption. Further, the standard specification highlights that drinking water shall comply with the requirements given in tables 1 to 4. So there are 4 different tables as has been provided in drinking water specification of Bureau of Indian Standards. Further, the BIS standard also highlights that drinking water shall also comply with bacteriological requirements, virological requirements and biological requirements. Now table 1 deals with organoleptic and physical parameters which include color, odor, pH value, taste, turbidity as well as total dissolved solids, milligram per liter. So the acceptable limit for pH value must be from 6.5 to 8.5 and for total dissolved solids the acceptable limit must be 500 milligram per liter. Now table 2 concerns with general parameters concerning substances undesirable in excessive amount, and these includes elements like aluminium, ammonia, ionic detergents, barium, boron, calcium, chloride, copper, fluoride, etc. The exact details have been provided in the PDF. Moving further, table 3 provides for parameters concerning toxic substances. These include cadmium, cyanide, lead, mercury, etc. Whereas table 4 provides for parameters concerning radioactive substances. And these radioactive material includes alpha emitters and beta emitters. Further, there are 2 other tables, that is table 5 and table 6. Table 5 provides for pesticide residues limits and test method, and table 6 provides for bacteriological quality of drinking water. So these are the different specifications as has been provided in BIS standard for drinking water. Now this editorial also highlights about composite water management index. So in this aspect, you must know about the various indicators as well as their weights in the composite water management index, which has been prepared by the Niti Aayog. The themes are: first, source augmentation and restoration of water bodies provided 5 weightage points. Source augmentation for groundwater provided 15 weightage points. Major and medium irrigation supply side management provided 15 major points. Watershed development and supply side management has been given 10 weightage points. Participatory irrigation practices and demand side management also given 10 weightage points. Sustainable on-farm water use practices and demand side management has been given 10 weightage points. Rural drinking water, again 10 weightage points. Urban water supply and sanitation, 10 weightage points, and policy and governance has been given 15 weightage points. So overall there are 100 weightage points or 100 weights with respect to the composite water management index. Thus this editorial on notification on regulation of use of membrane based water purification system becomes an important notification with respect to our prelims as well as mains examination. In your prelims, it forms a part of general issues on environmental ecology, and in your mains gets covered under GS paper 2 as well as GS paper 3. Under GS paper 2, it gets covered under statutory, regulatory and various quasi-judicial bodies as well as government policies and interventions, and GS paper 3 with respect to conservation, environmental pollution and degradation. Now this article appears on page number 10. It says course correction for the Speaker's office. Given how India's electoral system and political conventions shadow the office, a major revamp is necessary. Now, in this article, the authors have highlighted this particular judgment of Kesham Megha Chandra Singh versus Honorable Speaker Manipur Legislative Assembly and others with respect to the powers of Speaker of Lok Sabha to decide cases of anti-defection under 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution. Now, in its observation in this particular judgment, the Supreme Court said that whether disqualification petitions should be given to Speaker of Lok Sabha as a cautious judicial authority under the 10th schedule, as the Speaker mostly belongs to a particular political party and at times can act in a partisan manner. So this observation of the Supreme Court raises certain questions as to the partiality with respect to functioning of Lok Sabha Speaker, especially as a quasi-judicial authority while deciding cases of anti-defection under 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution. So the authors in this article have suggested other alternatives as to transfer this power to decide cases of anti-defection to other authorities. Now in this regard, first of all, let us know about Article 93 as well as Article 178 of the Indian Constitution. Now Article 93 mentions about the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the House of the People. It says that House of the People shall, as soon as may be, choose 2 members of the House to be respectively Speaker and Deputy Speaker thereof. So both the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker shall be member of this House, and similar is the case with respect to Legislative Assembly. Article 178 says that every Legislative Assembly of a state shall, as soon as may be, choose 2 members of the Assembly to be respectively Speaker and Deputy Speaker thereof. Now, as we have already mentioned about 10th schedule, it provides for provision with respect to disqualification on grounds of defection. Paragraph 6 says decisions on questions as to disqualification on the ground of defection. It highlights that if any question arises as to whether member of a house has become subject to disqualification under this schedule, the question shall be referred to the decision of the chairman or the speaker of such house, and his decision shall be final. So we understand that Speaker of Lok Sabha is also one of the members of the house and hence can act in a partisan manner at times, especially with respect to cases of anti-defection. This is because the tenure of the Speaker is also co-dependent on the ruling majority. Now taking this example, suppose if the Speaker of the Lok Sabha has to decide disqualification of 15 members who belong to the same party of the government, and the government in total has 285 seats in Lok Sabha. So if ultimately the Speaker decides for the disqualification, then the government is reduced to 270 seats and hence the government falls. So in such cases, the Speaker might act in the interest of their political party or in a partisan manner favoring the ruling majority or the ruling party. So it is because of these aspects the authors have suggested certain alternatives with respect to transferring of power of Speaker to some other authority, say an election commission, for disqualification. So in this aspect, it's also important to note other instances where the Speaker acts as an arbiter or where he has the final say in decision making. With respect to facilitating business of the House, with respect to maintaining decorum in the House, with respect to certain regulatory, administrative and judicial functions. He is the final authority with respect to interpretation of rules of conduct and functioning of the House. Further, Speaker also decides the duration of the debates and also allows different motions for the conduct of parliamentary debates. So considering these aspects, the authors have suggested these 2 options. First, they have suggested that the Speaker should renounce all political affiliation or membership or activity with respect to their own political party. In this regard, the authors have made comparison with the United Kingdom, where the main characteristic of Speaker of the House of Commons is neutrality. So in the United Kingdom, in practice, once elected, the Speaker gives up all partisan affiliation, but remains in office until retirement, and even though the majority may change. Next, the author says that the Parliament may seriously consider a constitutional amendment to substitute the Speaker of Lok Sabha and Legislative Assemblies with a permanent tribunal which is headed by a retired Supreme Court judge or a retired Chief Justice of a High Court or some other outside independent mechanism. Further, the authors have suggested to follow recommendations of Second Administrative Reform Commission, which suggests to transfer this power of Speaker with respect to disqualification to President and Governors on the recommendation of Election Commission. And this has also been suggested by Dinesh Goswami Committee on Electoral Reforms. The authors have suggested this to ensure that such disputes are decided both swiftly and impartially, thus giving teeth to the provisions contained in 10th schedule. So in this article, the authors have suggested to transfer the power of disqualification from the Speaker to some other institution, say to the Election Commission or to a permanent tribunal. This topic becomes important both from your prelims as well as mains perspective, as questions may be asked about the Speaker in your prelims examination. The next article appears on page number 10. It says, fashioning the framework of a new India. A major solution to the present economic crisis is to go in for inclusive growth. It also means shared prosperity. Now this article flags some of the important shortcomings of budget to address the slowdown, which could be tackled by adopting the principle of inclusive growth. And this could be done by catering to the bottom of the economic pyramid. So this article suggests that to increase demand in the economy, the government must spend more in the social sector, as it will help in increasing consumption in the economy. So this article has highlighted the evidence of slowdown in the economy and also suggested a natural recourse by focusing on inclusive growth on the bottom 30 to 40% of the economic pyramid. The first evidence of a slowdown in the economy is with respect to deceleration of growth, as it says that 5% of GDP is lowest in the last 26 quarters. And this is mainly on account of slowdown in the manufacturing as well as in the construction sector. It further highlights that even the MSME sector has declined, and this in turn has raised the burden on non-performing assets in the banking sector. Further, it says that economy has also witnessed a crunch, which is highlighted by the Financial Stability Report of Reserve Bank of India of 2019. And lastly, it mentions about a fall in gross fixed capital formation and also a fall in private final consumption expenditure. Now, gross fixed capital formation indicates investment levels in the economy. And as per the recent report, gross fixed capital formation in 2020 is expected to grow by a mere 1%. Further, the private final consumption expenditure indicates the demand levels in an economy. And this is said to decrease from 8% to 5.8% this year. So this article has given these evidence with respect to a slowdown in the Indian economy. So in this regard, the article has suggested two different ways to tackle this problem of slowdown. First, it says that the government has to go for more government spending, and secondly, the government need to give more money in the hands of the people. So these are the two ways which has been suggested by this particular article to come out of the economic slowdown by focusing on inclusive growth, especially on the bottom of the economic pyramid of the society. So effectively, this article highlights that as a result, the natural course correction should be first to increase consumption expenditure by putting more money into the hands of the people, and second, to increase government expenditure when investments are coming down. So private final consumption expenditure can be done in two ways. That is, money can be put in people's hands in two ways. First, either by providing them jobs or give money in the hand of people by way of grants or by way of direct cash transfer. However, with respect to providing job, it highlights that it requires human capital formation. That is, it requires skilling of people, and skilling of people requires more investment in the health and the education sector. So overall, this article also suggests to invest more in the health and education sector, as it will help in the human capital formation in India. On this account, it says that a mere 8% increase in health expenditure and a mere 4.8% increase in education will not be adequate to tackle this economic slowdown. Further, this article highlights that by not focusing on the bottom of the economic pyramid of the society, leads to suboptimal utilization of labor force in the economy, which is a waste of demographic dividend. So this article concludes by saying that there is a need to expand quality of basic health for all and also to ensure quality education to all, which will by itself generate large scale employment in the government. And by providing quality basic health for all and ensuring quality education, it will also help in expanding productive employment opportunity and make India more globally competitive. Further, the article says that more focus or impetus should have been provided or should have been given to the MG Narega program, because in addition to generating employment, it also triggers a virtuous cycle of expanding gross capital formation, and this in turn increases the labor absorbing capacity of the economy. So effectively, as a natural course correction, this article says that the government must increase consumption expenditure by putting more money in the hands of the people, and the government must increase government's expenditure when investments are coming down in the economy. Now you can use all these aspects while writing a critical analysis of this year's budget, and this will not only help you in the economy section but also for your essay writing. The next news appears on page number 16. It says cooperative banks to come under Reserve Bank purview. Regulator gets power to supersede board of any such bank in financial distress. Now, in the wake of recent Punjab and Maharashtra cooperative bank crisis, the union government has approved the amendments to Banking Regulation Act to bring 1,540 cooperative banks under the purview of RBI. So now the cooperative banks will be audited as per the RBI rules. Appointment of chief executive officers of these cooperative banks will require prior RBI approval, and the RBI will also have a right to supersede these cooperative banks in case of any banking failure because of financial distress. Now, after our discussion, these forms your practice question for the day. Question number 1. Consider the following statements. Bureau of Indian Standards has provided drinking water specifications whereby it has mentioned specifications about pH value and limits for total dissolved solids in water. Yes, this statement is correct. Second, Bureau of Indian Standards has been constituted through an executive order of the Union Government. No, this statement is incorrect, as it has been passed through an act of the Parliament, namely Bureau of Indian Standards Act of 2016. So in this the question was, which of the statements given above are correct? So the correct answer is A, one only. Question number 2. Now this question has been taken from a news on page number 9. It says the term Project 75, which was recently news, pertains to which of the following? Options are electric cars, manned mission to Mars, submarines production and metadata. Here the correct answer is C, that is submarines production. Question number 3, this has been taken from page number 13. Which of the following pairs are correctly matched? Options are Shaurya Temple Khajuraho, Sun Temple Konark, Jagannath Temple Puri, Meenakshi Temple Madurai and Brihadeshwara Temple Thanjavur. In this, only the first option has been incorrectly matched, that is Shaurya Temple is in Mahabalipuram. So the question is, select the correct answer using the code given below. So in this, apart from 1, all the options are correct. So the correct answer is D, that is 2, 3, 4 and 5. With this, we come to an end to discussion of today's newspaper. Let's move on to the question for the day.